Tonight, the anxious wait as wildfire threatens the BC town.
It was a line, like a wall of fire coming down the hill towards us.
A glimmer of hope for hundreds forced from their homes, but the danger isn't over. Canada's World Cup dreams dashed.
Just gutted, disappointed. Obviously, we expected more of ourselves. So.
An early exit, and now questions about what comes next.
I think this, for me, is a wake-up call for back home.
Remembering the man best known as Pee-wee Herman. Paul Reubens' private health battle and the message he left behind for his fans.
This is The National with Anita Bath.
Adrian is away. People are breathing a cautious but welcome sigh of relief tonight around Osoyoos, British Columbia. A wildfire that rushed right up to its doorstep appears to be slowing down. But that fire still poses a real threat. Some evacuation orders have been lifted, but residents are being warned to stay on alert. The town sits right along the Canada-U.S. border. And as you can see tonight, the Eagle Bluff wildfire is burning on both sides. The town is a draw for tourists, and as Mira Baines shows us, there is concern about the financial hit this fire is bringing.
A nerve-wracking weekend in wine country. Late-night dramatic images of a wildfire burning dangerously close to Osoyoos. But now relief after winds shifted direction to push the flames away from the popular tourist town of 5,500.
I thought we were a goner. Because those air bombers, they were fantastic. I mean, they 10 hours steady. Otherwise, we would have been goners.
Smoke is still rising from the fire, but some people are being allowed to return home as the evacuation perimeter shifts. As of Monday afternoon, 192 properties were under evacuation order. That's down from more than 700 this weekend.
One for now.
Mark Isaac and his family are camping in the area. This is the first time he's seen a wildfire so close.
We've been in Osoyoos before and saw the fire on the other side when it started with lightning, but this was, yeah, it was a line, like a wall of fire coming down the hill towards us.
Officials say the wildfire first ignited in the U.S. on Saturday night, then strong winds pushed flames across the border. Those winds now appear to be helping firefighters.
The wind had a good impact, or an impact, but it was a good impact the other night when we did see that wind shift and it blew back into itself, which kind of stops that growth in the areas where we don't want to see it.
But with flames just kilometers away, everyone is being warned to stay vigilant. And tourism operators are taking stock of their losses. Parm Brar says his winery resort lost $10,000 in business due to canceled reservations.
Just trying to see what to do going forward, right? So we are having people cancel for the long weekend coming up, which is one of our biggest weekends.
Still, there is cautious optimism that the worst of this fire may have passed. The flames retreating after an unrelenting effort by firefighters.
Mira, there's a lot of watching and waiting right now. What are we expecting in the forecast?
Wildfires by nature are unpredictable, and this one was wind-driven. Looking ahead at weather conditions, there's no rain in the forecast for the region. Very hot, dry conditions are expected over this next week. People are being asked to stay off the water so that water bombers can do their work. Osoyoos is under a state of local emergency, and officials are reminding people to be prepared to leave at a moment's notice.
Mira Baines in Vancouver tonight. Thank you. A lack of rain is hitting farmers in central Alberta hard. Their livestock's usual watering holes are bone dry. Many people look at that and see climate change at work. But as Aaron Collins explains, some farmers dealing with it all firsthand see it differently.
Hard to believe today, but not long ago you could paddle across this stretch of prairie. Many sloughs like this long used as watering holes for cattle, mostly dry this year.
We started this spring hot and dry. Scary.
Last year there was a meter of water here.
We threw these in the spring before we hauled cattle, and it was up to that second bar.
Right about here?
Yep, your knee height, a bit over.
All that water gone in a year?
Gone in a year, yeah.
It's the kind of dramatic change that climate scientists have long warned of. Warmer, drier conditions, a new normal. but many farmers here remain unsure.
People I rent from and the older fellows we've talked to, they've seen it dry. The 30s it was dry, things filled up and changed. So yeah, I'm hoping it's a cycle, which I truly believe it is, and yeah, we'll hopefully in a couple of years we're riding around in a boat trying to get this fence out of here.
For now, some ranchers are trucking in water for their animals. Demand at fill stations like this on the rise.
If you look at the trends from about 5 years ago, our water stations across the board are up about 45% in usage by this time of the year.
This farmer has to haul water into this field every few days. His cattle drawn to this pool to drink.
So you really can't make it work without trucking this water in.
Right. Well, right now I have no water in this field at all.
His family's worked the land in this area for decades. He's seen dry years before and believes the water will return as it did in the past.
You know what? It's like all things, it's cyclical. This is not new. This has happened before, and it'll happen again.
But climate change means those cycles could be more intense. And with water so scarce, costs are rising, making it harder for producers here to keep going.
The old guys always said, hold on to the cow's tail and she'll pull you through, but a lot of these guys are tired of holding on.
Making a living off this land never easy, but harder the longer the ground stays dry. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Stettler County, Alberta.
So what do the next few days hold for that area of the country or for yours? You can see it all on the CBC News Climate Dashboard. You can also compare current conditions to historical trends. Find it at cbc.ca/climate. Well, it's a disappointing end to Canada's World Cup journey. The national women's soccer team has been eliminated. A crushing defeat for the Olympic champions in a blowout loss against Australia. The team's worst finish at the tournament in more than a decade. Lindsay Duncombe now on why the early exit raises some big questions about what happens next.
This is how Australian fans sound when their team scores. Canada heard it again. And again and again and again. Not at all what the team was expecting.
Heartbroken, disappointed, frustrated, all of the above. Just gutted, disappointed. Obviously, we expected more of ourselves, so it's hard.
The Australians, also known as the Matildas, came in strong. 2 goals in the first half by forward Hayley Raso. 4 Canadian substitutions at the half didn't make a difference. Sophie Schmidt missed the net. The Australians didn't. 2 more goals. Canada clobbered.
I think they just showed up better than we did. Yeah, I mean, they took advantage of some momentum early, and I think the game got a bit stretched for us, and yeah, they wanted it more than we did tonight.
The ongoing pay negotiations with Canada Soccer, possibly a distraction for Canada. Only after the tournament began was a resolution found, and even then, only an interim agreement was reached.
This has been an incredibly difficult year for this team, on the pitch and off, and they didn't have enough, arguably, matches ahead of time.
At 40, Captain Christine Sinclair isn't answering questions about her future. She is talking about the future of the game in Canada, though.
I think what you're seeing in women's football is teams are catching up.
This Women's World Cup, the first with 32 teams, has seen strong performances from unexpected nations. Giants like Canada felled.
I think this, for me, is a wake-up call for back home, a wake-up call to our federation and the lack of a professional league, the lack of resources for the national teams, the lack of resources for the youth national teams.
Next up for Canada's national women's team, Olympic qualifications in September. But it will take a while to get over what happened here tonight. Head coach Bev Priestman put it this way. She said this is going to hurt like hell. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Melbourne.
Turning to the war in Ukraine now, at least 6 people are dead and dozens more injured after a Russian missile strike on an apartment building. As Sacha Petrusik shows us, it happened in the Ukrainian president's hometown.
Hundreds of rescue workers cut and drill, looking for the victims of the Russian ballistic missile strike, a morning attack that left a 5-story hole in an apartment tower. Among the dead, a 10-year-old girl and her mother. What we saw here was pure horror committed by Russia, says this neighbor. The building is in the industrial hub of Kryvyi Rih, the hometown of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This was only targeting civilians, he says, ordinary people, children. It's terrorism. As fighting intensifies across the east and south of Ukraine, few cities are spared. Ukrainian shelling of Russian-occupied Donetsk hit a bus, say local Russian-appointed officials, leaving at least 2 civilians dead. Ukrainian soldiers coming back from the front say it's been tough. The Russians are waiting for us with anti-tank weapons and grenade launchers, he says, but we are advancing. A naval parade in St. Petersburg paints a very different picture, celebrating Russian victories. The Ukrainians are desperately throwing more recruits into battle, says Russia's defense minister, but we're stopping them. At the UN Security Council, Russia blamed Ukraine for targeting civilians, as Western countries pointed back at Moscow.
Russia is inflicting terror on the Ukrainian people, and in parallel, it is inflicting suffering on its own population and millions across the world.
The UK, the US, France, and others, the majority of the Security Council, again calling on Russia to withdraw. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, Canada is joining a chorus of countries calling for the release of Niger's president. He hasn't been seen since being overthrown in a coup last week until now. That's where Abby Kuhrasin starts tonight.
A smiling Mohamed Bazoum seen here on the right for the first time since he was ousted as president of Niger and was detained by the military last week.
But at least we know he's alive and he seems to be well, Mr. Bazoum.
An army spokesperson appeared on state television Monday, insisting the democratically elected president colluded with former colonial power France and gave Paris permission to carry out strikes on Niger in order to free him. France has not commented on this.
Anti-colonial sentiment is quite widespread across Africa, and here it can be used by the coup leaders to try and legitimize their rule.
The military has allowed pro-coup demonstrations in the capital, where some attacked the French embassy.
So some were kind of getting concerned that too many foreign troops were being deployed.
Paris says their 1,500 soldiers are there to help fight jihadists in the region. In recent years, coups in Mali, Sudan, and Burkina Faso left Niger as the last democratic domino standing in the area.
That's particularly important because of the ongoing threat of violent extremism. It's been an important partner and base.
For a regional bloc of 15 West African states, the concern is deep enough that they've already slapped on financial sanctions and even threatened armed intervention if civilian rule is not restored within the week. But there's worry, too, that Niger, one of the poorest countries in the world, will turn to Russia or the Wagner Group, which supports the coup.
They are delighted to have this opportunity to stoke anti-Western sentiment in Africa.
Niger is also a major producer of uranium needed for nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. And it's a prime staging post on the migrant route north, sparking fears of another regional crisis. Abby Kuhrasin, CBC News, London.
RCMP in Manitoba are investigating another crash tonight at the same intersection where a horrific crash killed a group of seniors back in June. It happened at Highway 1 and Highway 5. 3 vehicles were involved and 3 people were taken to hospital with serious injuries. In June, a bus carrying seniors from Dauphin, Manitoba collided with a semi-trailer. 17 people died in that crash. The search for a missing youth in Nova Scotia has been temporarily suspended more than a week after deadly flash floods. There's concern deep pockets of water could pose a danger.
These pockets of water have low visibility and unpredictable terrain. As a result, a search of the ponds by the searchers would put them in risk of being injured.
Police say the search will resume once the water has naturally drained, and their goal is still to bring the youth back to their family. The bodies of 3 other people have already been recovered: 6-year-olds Natalie Harnish and Colton Cisco, and 52-year-old Nicholas Holland. Well, a potential breakthrough tonight in the BC port labor dispute. Another tentative deal just days after workers rejected the last one. This is the 3rd new potential agreement in a month, and it was reached late Sunday night with the help of federal mediators. Workers walked off the job earlier this month for more than a week, stalling billions of dollars worth of cargo. Still no details on this latest deal, but both sides are urging workers to ratify it. And no sign of a breakthrough in the Toronto area. Thousands of Metro grocery store workers were off the job for a 3rd day today. They say they want higher wages along with better health care and sick leave benefits. 27 stores have been forced to close because of the strike. To Montreal now, where the city's new light rail transit system is off to a bit of a bumpy start. As Sarah Levitt shows us, it shut down during this morning's rush hour on the first official day of operation.
It's not exactly what you'd like to see on day one. Long lineups and passengers boarding buses, not train cars. Nearby, 3 cars stuck on the Champlain Bridge.
I got on the train, then somebody came in and told us that there was a lot of technical problems.
I'm already late for work, about 20 minutes. Hey, look at this, the metro is not going nowhere. This is a disgrace.
Montreal's Réseau Express Métropolitain, or REM, ground to a halt in both directions for more than an hour during the morning rush.
We had this switch on the tracks that let the cars pass from a track to another one. There's a part that was stuck. We went there on the field itself, the technical team, to repair it as fast as we can.
Rough after a weekend that saw more than 120,000 people try out the new line for free and without incident.
C'est la hype, là.
This expert says today's trouble may just be a blip.
There is bound to be a little bit of hiccup at the beginning. It's unfortunate that it happened the first day.
Some, though, are looking to Ottawa's light rail system and worrying Montreal could be heading down the same track. The O-Train has had system failures, lawsuits, even derailments. Montreal's REM has several of the same private partners, but Lucy Jones says it's not a fair comparison.
Because of the way that the infrastructure was built, the time over which it was built, the way the project was managed, there's a lot of differences.
Still, a disappointing start for the region's largest transit project in decades. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Let's go to the U.S. now, where Donald Trump appears to have an enormous lead over his Republican opponents. That's despite 2 indictments. And as Katie Simpson tells us, it comes with the possibility of more legal trouble on the horizon.
Twice impeached, twice indicted, Donald Trump is now polling with more than twice the support of his challengers, as some Republicans are outraged over his growing legal troubles.
I think it's all a bunch of political BS.
A New York Times Siena College poll shows Trump is crushing his opponents with 54% support among Republican voters. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is a distant second with 17%. Everyone else is barely registering with 3% or less. It comes, as Trump says, any day now. He's expecting to be indicted for his alleged role in the January 6th assault on the Capitol. And new signals, Trump may also be charged for alleged efforts to overturn election results in Georgia. Remember that phone call to state officials asking them to change the results in his favor?
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
Barricades have been put up around the courthouse in Georgia as the DA says she'll announce whether Trump will be indicted before September 1st.
The work is accomplished. I mean, we've been working for 2.5 years. We're ready to go.
If all that wasn't enough, The Mar-a-Lago classified documents case expanded. Longtime maintenance worker Carlos de Oliveira made a first court appearance, accused of trying to delete security camera footage servers at the request of his boss, an allegation his legal team is vowing to fight.
The Justice Department has unfortunately decided to bring these charges against Mr. de Oliveira. And now it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is.
Donald Trump is paying for his soaring legal costs in part through donations to his re-election campaign. His political fundraising group has already spent $40 million with plans to create a legal defense fund for Trump, who is reportedly worth $2.5 billion. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
An Ontario man is speaking out after discovering his credit rating plunged because of a technical glitch.
I thought at first maybe there's some type of fraud on the account.
Why he's warning others to look at their scores carefully next. Plus, remembering the iconic force behind Pee-wee Herman. The message left behind by Paul Reubens for fans. And later, a perfect storm in the night sky.
This awe-inspiring feat is just happening in front of your face.
We're back in 2. At least 2 people have been killed in devastating flooding in Beijing. A powerful typhoon brought torrential rain and turned roads into rivers. You can see a car being swept away. Thousands of people have been forced from their homes in the capital. This is the worst flooding Beijing has seen in a decade. An Ontario man is warning customers at one of Canada's biggest credit unions that they may want to check their credit scores. He says a technical glitch drastically lowered his rating, and it seems he's not alone. Angelina King has the exclusive details.
As you can see, the payments, they're up to date.
Velimir Dretson's credit score dropped to a rating considered poor. He says he wouldn't have noticed the discrepancy had it not been for a landlord asking him specifically for an Equifax credit check earlier this month.
I would have been none the wiser.
That's because Dretson gets his credit report from a different rating agency. He was shocked when he compared the two. Dretson's Equifax credit score was 526, which puts him in the poor category, a rating that could make it hard for him to borrow money. But TransUnion listed his score as good at 676, 150 points higher.
You put the work in to improve it and to have a nice, good history, for the last couple of years, and you're still at the bottom of the barrel.
The Equifax report listed 2 versions of the same maxed out credit card.
And so I thought at first maybe there's some type of fraud on the account.
There wasn't. Turns out the problem lies with the technology change at Equifax after Meridian took over the management of its credit cards from a third party last fall. The credit bureau says that resulted in creating a second credit card account showing up on some Meridian customers' reports. Equifax says the problem only affects some Meridian clients.
So it was showing instead of 3,000 outstanding, I had 6,000 outstanding.
Dretson's score was fixed after he and CBC Toronto contacted Equifax, but not in time for him to apply to rent a basement suite in Etobicoke. Now he's warning other Meridian customers.
If it's affecting, their whole database of credit card clients, that's a lot of people.
Neither Meridian nor Equifax would say how many customers are affected. Equifax did say it's working to fix the issue for all Meridian customers by September, and for those who need an immediate fix can contact them.
It's very important to have good credit.
Credit counselor Mark Kalinowski says a poor credit rating could force people to private lenders instead of banks.
It can add tens of thousands of dollars extra over the lifetime of that product.
As for Meridian, the company says it's reporting credit card information correctly to Equifax, and employees have been trained to help customers contact Equifax to make sure their credit rating reflects the right score. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Even with a summer that's seen the hottest temperatures in recorded history, some people still doubt the science of climate change.
It is very easy, by misleading rhetoric, to induce doubt about those facts.
Jayla Bernstein looks at how climate denial continues to spread online. Plus, Canada's affordability crisis is hitting students harder than ever.
Just getting denied over and over and over again
was so stressful and so painful.
The struggle to find affordable housing. The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping our world next. Record-breaking heat, deadly wildfires. Scientists are warning July is on track to be the hottest month ever recorded on the planet, leading the United Nations to say the world is now in an era of global boiling. Despite more warnings, more calls for change, and more extreme weather, climate change denial is still out there, particularly on social media. Earlier this year, Jayla Bernstein looked at how that misinformation leaves an impact even if you scroll past it.
I've been doing a lot of scrolling on my phone lately, and I've been noticing a lot of people making just straight up false claims, or at least cherry picking the facts to make it sound like climate change isn't as bad as it really is. And these posts sometimes are getting thousands, if not millions of views.
Everything you thought you knew about science of man-made global warming is virtually the opposite of what's real.
Man's contribution to CO2 in the atmosphere is only 0.01%.
I wouldn't see anything wrong with having twice as much CO2 as we presently have.
I report on climate change, so I know these claims aren't true, but it got me thinking, are people really buying into this? Polls actually tell us most Canadians believe climate change is real.
When these polls do become viral and get shared in the larger population, most of the reactions are negative, and most of the comments are people trying to decredibilize or debunk what is being said.
Okay, so just because an online post is popular doesn't mean it's fooling everyone. But does that mean it's not doing any damage?
It is very easy by misleading rhetoric to induce doubt about those facts in the public, because the public doesn't have enough time, to sort of sift through all the information that's out there. So misinformation can have a very strong impact on people's attitudes.
Misinformation is all about planting little seeds of doubt. It might not be enough to actually make you think climate change isn't real, but it might make you question whether cutting emissions is really worth all the effort.
They tell us 97% of climate scientists agree, but they don't tell us that that's only 75 people.
Climate has always been changing, but this has nothing to do with man.
In a democracy, we want people to be informed about risks so that they can take educated decisions about how to avoid that. And if people are exposed to this blizzard of false information about climate change, then their right to be informed about risks is being undermined.
Let's break down a viral example.
In the 90s, it was the ozone layer will be destroyed in 10 years. In the 2000s, it was the glaciers will all melt in 10 years. None of this fear-mongering nonsense came true, but it did result in higher taxes.
This is one popular approach. It's sometimes called the anti-globalist conspiracy theory. Basically, it works by lumping together all sorts of different global crises and suggests that they're all basically inventions to try and control you. But we know the glaciers are melting, thanks to decades of monitoring through photography, satellite imagery, and fieldwork. We also know that the thinning ozone was a real thing. The reason we don't talk about it much anymore? It's recovering.
The Montreal Protocol improves the odds in the risky game the world has been playing with its own future.
It's basically a good news story. We don't hear about it because humanity did the right things.
Susan Solomon's research helped reveal why the ozone was thinning. I asked her what it's like to hear people claim it wasn't real in the first place.
It's a little bit like saying, I had a heart attack and my doctor put a stent in and they told me I had to exercise. And, now I feel great. So I think that was all just, nonsense to make money for the medical establishment.
A recent Canadian report calls it manufactured doubt. Misinformation can create a false sense that the science is still in question when it's not. Whether it's the link between CFCs and the ozone hole, smoking and lung cancer, or the fact that human activity does cause climate change.
There's plenty of research showing that exposure to misinformation about climate change leads people to take it less seriously and to be less willing to support policy actions, and basically to say, yeah, well, we don't really have a problem.
He's talking about this body of evidence. Climate denial creates polarization, erodes trust in science, and undermines support for cutting emissions. It's gotten bad enough that the UN flagged misinformation as limiting climate action. In other words, even if you don't fall down the rabbit hole, misinformation can still slow support for the work that's going to decide all of our futures.
Pass, 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 smash.
We need to do more, like a lot more, in order for us to stick to our goal of limiting global heating to 1.5 degrees Celsius and to avoid fast-tracking to climate disaster. It's really no big deal, right? Right?
So what's the solution? Well, you can check out questionable claims on websites like PolitiFact or Snopes as well, and you can double-check whether the claims are legit or not. Well, you might be tempted to comment on videos like this one. It might not actually have the kind of effect you'd hope for.
Social media platforms tend to promote content that attracts a lot of interactions. So one way around, or one solution that I've seen some people use, is to share a picture of the post when debunking it rather than sharing the post itself.
Really, this is a problem that's bigger than you or me. It needs a big picture answer. We asked social media companies, what are you doing about climate misinformation? Twitter didn't respond, but Meta, TikTok, and YouTube all did. 2 videos we flagged to TikTok are no longer on the site. All 3 companies told us they use a variety of tools. They'll sometimes label misinformation, they'll sometimes remove it from their platforms if it violates their policies, and they'll also sometimes actually shrink the audience that it can reach. Google told us that if YouTube videos outright promote climate change denial, they'll actually block those videos from getting ad revenue. But it's still an uphill battle.
We're living in an environment where outrage or anger or fear, anything that evokes attention or captures attention, is being favored by the algorithms of social media.
Beyond social media, there are other solutions, like making scientific research easier to access, avoiding overhyped news headlines, and calming down toxic partisan talk.
A lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax.
With the right combination of public support, good science, and practical solutions, there is hope that we can actually curb the impacts of climate change.
We have done it time and time and time again, and we're already starting to do it now with climate change. We need to get faster at it, but I'm convinced that we'll solve it, because I see people caring, I see people perceiving it, the change, and I see the practical solutions out there.
Since we first brought you Jayla's story, TikTok introduced a new climate misinformation policy. It says it's removing content that undermines established scientific consensus, but misleading climate information can still be found on the platform. As post-secondary students look ahead to another academic year, many trying to find a place to live are facing soaring rents or worse.
Some of places had bed bugs, and you can literally see insects flying through the, kitchen sink.
Up next, the difficult compromises they're being forced to make. With the start of classes now just weeks away, many Canadian college and university students may be scrambling to secure housing, but soaring rents and low supply are pushing some to make desperate decisions. Earlier this summer, Nisha Patel took a look at what they're up against.
University of Guelph student Alexandra Musser has been hunting for housing for 6 months.
It was so rare to have somebody get back to me, and when they did, it was, sorry, we don't have space for you. Sorry, we don't think you're a good match. Sorry, we're out of your budget. And just getting denied over and over and over again was so stressful and so painful.
There's so much competition, she didn't have much choice, finally settling for this. One room of a house shared with 6 other students. She's paying a hefty $840 a month.
Absolutely disgusting. This water doesn't actually run at all. You can see all the browning and water damage. This is around the entire baseboard of the house. It smells really bad too.
Why did you feel like you had to sign a lease in a place like this?
Because because there was no other options. This was my last resort. It was either this or couch surfing for the next year.
Guelph is a university town with some of the steepest rents in the country. The average cost of a one-bedroom apartment is up 27% in a year. But that's not unique. From Victoria to Calgary, Kingston to Halifax, prices have soared, pushing student housing further out of reach. So what's going on here? We all know there's a housing shortage. There aren't enough affordable apartment units being built, and landlords are raising rents to cover higher mortgage costs. But add a wave of college and university students all needing somewhere to live into these communities across the country, and you've got yourself a perfect storm.
Particularly here.
We tracked down Mike Moffat, an economist who studies housing issues. How would you describe the shortage of student rental housing?
It's an absolute crisis. Colleges and universities across Canada, particularly in southern Ontario, have been increasing their enrollments substantially. But the incentives for them are to bring in as many students as possible. International students pay international tuition, so they tend to be a very, very profitable group.
And are schools required to kind of build adequate housing?
There's no requirement whatsoever. It's up to them to be sort of responsible, look at what the housing situation is in the community, and keep enrollments at a manageable level.
Here in Waterloo, Ontario, there is some on-campus housing for international students, but for many, it's just too pricey. Rahish Jaria moved here from India about 5 months ago. He came to study web development at Conestoga College.
It was very good news for me. Like, I was very excited to start my new life in here. It's nice, actually.
With nowhere to live, that initial joy quickly turned to despair.
So many students are looking for accommodation, but they are unable to find because of expensive prices.
And what's your budget?
Between $550 and $650.
So these are all out of your price range?
Yeah.
Some of the options within his budget were a tight squeeze.
When I visited the place, it was like 3 people already living in the room, and they want me to fit in there.
And they were all paying $650?
Yeah.
For one room?
Yeah.
Wow. Others were downright disgusting.
Some of places had bed bugs, and you can literally see insects flying through the, kitchen sink.
How do you feel about the search right now?
Very frustrated, actually. I'm very worried. I don't have face, like a sad face, but I am worried inside.
Do you wish that you had known more about it before you came?
Yeah, I wish I had known very much. They never told us the, ground realities, like you won't be able to find an accommodation, what will you do? And
why did you want to talk about this today?
Because someone should. Like, everyone is like just ignoring the things, and like they have fear of speaking to the public, actually.
The schools we talked to say they're well aware of the issue and they're trying to find ways to address housing needs. But students say they desperately need help, and they need help now.
The schools need to look at the enrollment side, but also start to have some supply themselves.
Moffat agrees it's great to welcome more students, but the housing supply has to keep pace.
It's a big, hairy, complicated problem, and it's going to require a lot of coordination and working together.
Who do you think should be taking responsibility for this?
It's really hard when nobody of a higher power is willing to step in and say, hey, these students are suffering, what can we do to help?
So for the next year, Musser will live here, likely working 2 jobs just to pay the rent. Hoping by the time she has to sign her next lease, things will be different.
Since Nisha's story first aired, the University of Guelph rented a nearby hotel to house some first-year students, but people in other Canadian college towns still face high rents and low vacancy rates as the new school year gets closer. Up next. Looking back at the man behind Pee-wee Herman, the illness Paul Reubens hid from the public, and the message he left behind. Plus,
I never thought I would get a lightning storm and northern lights at the same time, but tonight it is.
a spectacular light show you won't want to miss. That's next in our moment. Sad news from California tonight. Actor Angus Cloud, one of the stars of the HBO hit Euphoria, has died. No cause of death was given. Cloud's publicist says the 25-year-old died at his family's home in Oakland. In a statement, his family says he'd been struggling after his father died just over a week ago. And actor and comedian Paul Reubens has died. You might know him better as Pee-wee Herman, a character he created and played for decades. Eli Glasner has more on Reubens' life and career.
The man in the gray suit with that unmistakable laugh. Pee-wee Herman started in the improv troupe The Groundlings, where Paul Reubens invented a comedian so bad you had to laugh.
Ah! Mr. Stingray! Ah! Ah! Ah!
Soon Herman was the star of his own film.
Come on, let's get some breakfast. Come on.
He's a clown. He dresses with his clothes don't fit. He has makeup on. It's very stylized, but it's very grounded in childhood.
You're a nerd. I know you are, but what am I?
Not even the meanest bikers could stand against the man in the bow tie.
He wins them over. Like they love him by the end of it.
The success led to a kid show millions tuned in to visit Pee-wee's wonderfully weird playhouse.
It has all of this Americana. It has all of these colorful and eccentric characters.
This critic says there was a subversive quality to the show, best exemplified by the Christmas special.
All of the people on the show, all of the guest stars, or most of them anyway, are gay icons like Katie Lang, Grace Jones, Little Richard. All of this happening on a children's show that was seen by millions of people with their parents. It is a celebration of the outsider, and a very subversive one at that.
This guy's right on my butt.
Yeah. A talk show favorite, Reubens stayed relentlessly committed to playing Pee-wee.
I went many years without ever being photographed out of character until one day.
A day in 1991 when Reubens was arrested and charged with indecent exposure in an adult movie theater.
Toys R Us pulled the Pee-wee Herman dolls from their stores, and yeah, he was a national figure of ridicule and mockery.
The scandal put Pee-wee on pause, derailing his career, but eventually he returned to TV and film. Today, fans were surprised to learn he kept the 6-year battle with cancer private. After he died, his team shared this message. Please accept my apology for not going public. I've loved you all so much and enjoyed making art for you. Paul Reubens was 70. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Rapper Cardi B is now being investigated by police after an incident at a concert this weekend. She was performing in Las Vegas when someone in the crowd threw a drink at her. She quickly retaliated with her microphone, and police in Las Vegas confirm that concert goer has come forward with a complaint. So far, no charge or arrest. Two marvels of the natural world came together in this photo taken in Saskatchewan last week when a powerful thunderstorm collided with the northern lights. Tristan Wingert managed to capture a stunning time lapse as the storm rolled by. So tonight, the beauty and the power of the night sky is our moment.
I've seen quite a few crazy aurora storms, but I've never seen where two storms collide. So I was honestly about ready to go to bed. Could see all the flashing from all the lightning outside. Went outside, took a couple pictures of just the sky and the lightning. Set up my camera, did one for a time lapse. And yeah, as the storm got farther away, the stars in the sky cleared, and yeah, the northern lights just started to pop, and it was impossible to go home and go to bed. The time lapse was from about midnight to 3 a.m. and just outside of Milford, Saskatchewan. I guess the best way to describe it is just emotional. You're sitting on a dirt road at 2 o'clock in the morning by yourself, and this awe-inspiring feat is just happening in front of your face. I've been chasing the Northern Lights for like 6 years. I don't know, I haven't seen any other time lapses like it, right place, right time. I don't know, I just think it's super cool being able to share this stuff with people, and I hope it encourages more people to go out and try and see it for themselves.
Wow, I've never seen the Northern Lights, and we don't get a lot of thunderstorms here in BC, but that looks incredible. And, you know, he said it was emotional. I can only imagine watching that for hours. Just amazing. That's the National for July 31st. Hope you have a good night.